recorded by Erica, then we.
Order, we do have a quorum. Chris is sick and Cole and Roxanne are both out of town, so. Janet, would you lead us in pledge of allegiance, please?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Yeah, we have Anna Gentry, Jonathan, Ethan Elliott, Morgan Snidel, and Melissa.
Welcome, everyone. First thing we have is review and approval of the minutes.
So move to approve the minutes.
Second.
Okay, been moved and seconded to approve the minutes as presented. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Say the same, passes unanimously. Next is review of the claims and accounts. Josh, if you want to go through them.
Yes. Like usual, folks, we'll just go through page by page. These something that I felt merits calling your attention to, I'll do so. If not, I'll just kind of ask if there's any questions. Some of these you'll kind of see are reoccurring bills. I don't really have anything to point out. Page one. Any questions on any of the items on page one? Okay, let's move on to page two. Nothing on page two. You'll see it's some big numbers because they're reoccurring. G or gas and things of that nature.
It's gonna go up or it has already. Yeah,
Question, page 2. Page 3. There's the first item 20579. That's our payment for the Dan who's with us today as our owner representative. That's for building mind and body. For a bill of $3,783.80. Counts on that page in particular point out. That may be our first and only snow removal bill.
that's crazy.
Page 3, I've got a couple. If you look down, which says PO accounting, well, it's the 20588 general distributing. You look down for numbers 4 through 8. That's equipment that Mr. Igo has purchased with the funds we received from Western for the welding program, the welding partnership. So that's what that's for. And then a little further down the page, you see item 20592. That's Intuitive Architecture for $11,693.75. That's our first bill for our architectural firm that's working on our ASIC building repair project. Questions on page 4. All right. Page 5, top item there, item 20595. That's K12 Montana Inc. for $11,248. This is the company that's working on our tech infrastructure upgrades, and we just hadn't paid them in a while. So for some reason, the bill was getting sent to the wrong place. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 months worth of bills there. They'll actually, I think, be on site next week. We've completely transitioned to Gmail now. We're working currently on transitioning to Google Drive, getting off of the Active Directory. Any questions on page 5? I'll move on to page 6. About the middle of the page, item 20607. That's sideline power for $9,755. Those were funds that we received through our innovative educational tax credit that were specifically earmarked for the purchase of that sideline camera system. It's an end zone camera system that will film what they call a tight angle. We'll also be using it some in baseball and softball. So Mr. McCrae's getting that going right now, and maybe even some for graduation and things like that. Questions on item 20607? Okay, page 7. They just unstick. Nothing really specific to point out on page 7. I would note that there were 52 claims this period from 50 vendors for a total of $130,741.20. Then the last page just gives you the breakdown of how the funding was distributed between our accounts for the claims.
Anyone have any questions on the claims and accounts? Been moved and seconded to approve the claims and accounts. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the same. Passes unanimously. Next is public comment. I think I'm going to skip down to the Dan McGee's report, which is number 6.2. Dan, then you don't have to sit around and listen to us. So you're up if you want to go.
All right. Well, thank you for doing that for me, Chairman Love. I appreciate it. At least I didn't drive down there for a quick one here. So obviously, as we get into this project a little bit, I'll be present a lot more as we're in the construction phase. But what I wanted to give you just a quick update. After our visit with the architect and the contractors, we had kind of 3 options for the fix of the building envelope of that ASIT building. And as we went through it, talking with a building envelope specialist, kind of actually narrowed it down to two options. And the question continued to come up as we prepare to fix infiltration of water, air, finding a solution that isn't going to trap or create another issue. And so the third option of a insulated metal panel, which is a system that we're concerned not only about potentially burying something behind it, that if there was ever any damage, those panels are, 20 feet tall. You have to actually pull them all apart. So if you had a damaged panel in the middle of a wall, the extensive labor and that to remove it, to make a repair or replacement, kind of would have been cumbersome. So we went to the next option, which was to do a furring strip, seal the block, fur out, insulate, and then put a metal siding, whether it's a rib or a corrugated metal of some kind like that. That was an option. And then we had that priced out from our general contractor. Then the third option is a block filler, where basically it's a liquid applied filler to the block, seals up all the cracks. Everything we're doing is we're having to pull out all of the storefronts. So either options, we were going to have be pulling all the storefronts out of the building, fixing those issues that were part of the original construction. So that number stayed the same in there. And then that block filler, we'd seal everything up, fix the windows. That block sealer is then you have a paint applied to it to bring the colors that we would choose. And then that includes basically on the interior of the buildings where we would gain our insulation. So we'd be furring out, insulating, sheetrocking all the walls that have in the shop spaces. So right now, those are currently the backside of our CMU blocks. So it would have a different look. We'd be taking a little bit of wall depth, so it's not a whole lot of square footage, but we'd be losing a little bit of room in each of those spaces, to the tune of about 2.5 inches along all the exterior walls. And as we looked at that, we went to a pricing effort and kind of compared really what the overall costs were. The metal wall panel system that I mentioned first, with all the costs associated, including the design, the building envelope specialist, all of our contingencies carried in, was about $1.02 million, which kind of gets us to the most extreme top end and probably a little bit more than what the district could afford or wants to afford at this time. It wouldn't really leave you any leeway in your building reserve. And based on that settlement and the dollars that were left over in the original budgets, the painting option, all in with all of the fixes that would address the building envelope, came in at about $747,000. And during our facilities meeting, was that 2 weeks ago, I guess, or a week and a half ago, it was decided based on the budgets that would probably be the better solution to allow the district to address maybe some other items that they feel are more important than just the cosmetic or how the exterior building would look with a metal panel versus a sealed and painted one. So that's kind of what's proposed tonight. The facility committee, I believe, put a recommendation through to the board to pursue that. And after that meeting, I asked the architect to generate a quick image as quick as she could with the limited time. I forwarded that through. I just got it late this afternoon. Passed that along to Dr. Patterson. Do you have that to share, Josh?
Yep, got it up now, Dan.
So the images that we looked at originally when the general contractor first brought it up, the product is a liquid applied. It can be tinted, but we'll also be looking to potentially apply a paint to the exterior of it. So this image that are quick kind of renderings of what this could look like. So we'll still have the look of the split face block, the smooth block. You'll actually be able to see that it is a masonry building. And then we can actually complement it with applying colors that would complement not only this building, but potentially tie in some of your other existing buildings on campus. And at the cost, it seems to lead itself to a better option and will still accomplish the envelope requirements that we need to get this building to function the way it was initially designed and should have been constructed. So this kind of gives you a couple perspectives. The architect picked some colors that are similar to the block as it is, but if you can see that there's a photo in the middle on the right, that's a building that had a similar block leaking issue. They used this product to paint the brick. And if you can zoom in on that, it kind of shows you where you can see, you still know it's a masonry building. And that's what we felt was probably going to be your best bang for your buck, dollar for dollar, compared to a metal type wall panel. And leave you some dollars left over to do some more things within the district from a maintenance or long-term building needs assessment. So
Dan,
yeah,
would you try to explain to the board members that weren't at the meeting that day how you feel about this project or this product, and how long you think it would be good for, and some of those sorts of things, as opposed to the metal?
yeah, so no matter what, even on the areas, so the metal at that price was really kind of assuming all of the spaces that include the shop area, so your wood and metal shop and those classrooms. So we would have had a combination of block and then metal. And what our cost for our building envelope specialist, so that's a person that's going to come in and verify that whatever solution we do isn't going to create a problem point within that wall system. So if you can imagine the outside of your block to the inside of the sheetrock, if there's any air or water that infiltrates, they get to a point where they call it a dew point. So as the heat or the temperature of the building is condensing in the middle of the wall, if there is leaking, we want to avoid that. So with the metal panel, we're trying to trap that water, keep that water to the exterior of the building, but there's potential of air gaps, which may have caused an issue. So we would have been putting a block sealer on all of the exterior of the building before we applied that. So his costs were going to be a little bit greater because there's more details around flashing and trying to make sure that we minimize any potential dew points within our structure. We want to keep it on the outside. The painted option, so this block sealer is a two-part application, and then we paint the exterior. That two-part application would never have to be replaced. Its potential of that exterior finish that we pick is going to be much like a home, a 10-year process where you're going to have to maybe go up and touch up or want to repaint if areas get damaged. And either one of those, there's a reapplication. Even if it were the metal where we had to seal the classroom sides, that would be about a 7 to 10 year reapplication, much like we're talking about with this solution. So we kind of looked at the pros and cons, long-term cost of ownership, the painting, and the metal with the block sealer. They're a similar term as far as when a application or a reapplication would need to be taken care of, but felt that this, with the savings from the initial first cost, allow us to plan out that potential maintenance on an 8 or a 10-year touch up. Is that kind of what you're asking for, Gary?
Yeah, Dan, thank you. One of the things that we talked about with the facilities committee and with Dan and Josh was we could maybe afford the metal shell, the $1 million project, but if we had any kind of cost overruns or found anything inside the classrooms when we were worried about potential leakage and maybe mold problems or whatever, then we'd be looking at trying to dip into some of our reserves or whatever. And by going this approach that Dan is talking about, I think all of us on the committee and Josh and Dan felt it probably was the best way to go, and the cost wise probably makes the most sense for us. So Josh, you have anything to add about that? Or
No, I agree. It was a good meeting. We deliberated thoroughly, and I think it's probably the best solution going forward. Leaves us more dollars for potential or other projects down the road.
you know, one of the things we had talked about doing that was in the original plans, if you remember, was to expand the concession booth and also put some kind of a cover on the west side of the entrance to the gym. By going this route, that would hopefully allow us to have some money left over to do some of those things possibly. So, Dan, did you get a chance to ask them if it would be feasible to put metal on the outside of the VOAG portion where there's so much on the inside that it would have to come off?
Yes, I did. And when Marie, so our architect, Marie Wilson, she thought about it, ran it through. So we have to, what we do is they model this building in software. It's called ComCheck, and it actually tells us how much insulation is going to be required. And there's a concern that even with an overlap, so what Gary's talking about is on our backside where the overhead doors are in the shop spaces. On the inside of those walls, there's quite a bit of plumbing gas. There's a lot of electrical. There's things on that exterior wall that in this number, this 747, the contractor is going to actually have to, unfasten that, move it out while they build that new furring wall and reapply them. So unfortunately, what happens, even if we have some overlap of a metal with an insulation on the outside, there's a potential for a dew point that it creates, and it starts messing with that ComCheck a little bit. It's something that's not off the table. That was in a quick conversation with her and looking at her ComCheck report. Really, that's when we get to a design point where our envelope specialist gets involved. He would be able to tell us better with assurance versus she saying, hey, it might be easier construction, but it might create an issue for us. So this envelope specialist, that will be somebody that the district hires, that I'm negotiating with now based on this path, they'll be able to actually run it from an engineered perspective and tell us if it would be feasible and if there is any additional savings potential, or if it would be a wash from a cost standpoint. What it does is it buys us insurance that the solution we're putting on isn't going to create a problem in the future. And it also gives not only the contractor, but the architect, but as well as us, the confirmation that, and they then own that risk that we haven't created another problem. So we really are going to rely heavily on them. So that's something that we'll propose and have them model it in their software to tell us if it could be, and then ask Langless to price out or see if there is any cost advantage from a construction side. So that's what it comes down to, is the amount of hours it takes to apply one or the other. And they can analyze that, and then the material costs.
Okay, thanks.
One of the things they brought up is that with doing that on the exterior, it forces us to extend that insulation up and over our parapet, and then we get into reworking some of the roofing. So there were some concerns about potentially creating another spot where we could have a water or air infiltration. So there are some hurdles and she would like to push it on to that envelope specialist before she committed to yes or no. It would be more financially beneficial to do it that way.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I ask you a question about that? I'm sorry, I didn't know what's going on, but so water is coming in, condensing into a wall somewhere?
Yeah, the windows leak and the cinder
windows
block
are leaking?
leaks when we get storms.
Okay, I'm just curious, I've never seen it done before, but has anybody looked at a spray on epoxy coating?
Yep.
Question, Dan, has anyone ever looked at spraying epoxy coating? That's kind of
Yeah.
what this is, isn't
Is
it?
that what it is?
And then it's basically, yeah, it's a spray applied and then they roll a second coat on. And it's not an epoxy. It's got similar properties, and I'll have the specs as soon as it's clear and I can share that with the group so that they can see exactly what the material is. It's used all over the state. Mostly folks use it on new industrial type construction. Obviously, we have a really nice higher end block, so it's disappointing that that's our solution. But I think with the right colors, we're going to be replacing all the parapet caps. Other things that they noticed, all of our exterior exit doors, those are the steel doors that you see in the classrooms. I believe those were initially intended to be painted. They were just left raw. We're going to be able to capture some of the other things that were misses in the project that will help beautify that building. So I do feel this very similar to an epoxy coating. We're just going to be able to apply and have a more a nicer color palette.
Thank you. And then also the building, the cinder block wasn't insulated properly, so that's another reason that we're referring it out on the inside is to help with the heat and cold. So. Does anyone else have any questions for Dan? Hey, Dan, we have this on action item later in the meeting, and I would think if the board is okay with it, we go ahead and approve one of the two projects, I would think.
And I'm happy to hang out. I'm at my desk, so I'll listen. So if other questions come up, I'll be here.
Okay, all right. Thanks, Dan. Okay, next we have then is public comment. Does anyone have any comments they need to make about anything? Yes,
We
Maureen.
came to comment about something, but I don't know. Is there only one time to comment in the meeting? Yes, okay, to comment then.
Sure.
All right. So you'll have to forgive me because I just don't know the process very much on it. Maybe I'm going about it the wrong way, but made a comment the other day, and I'm kind of trying to find some more information. I'll go into another thing about the. I was wondering if there's does the school have a legal counsel on retainer?
Yes, the School Board Association.
It's an association that we said, so it's not.
Yeah, Montana School Board Association.
All the question was putting the male teacher in the girls' locker room, was that ever vetted by them? Did any legal counsel look into that at all?
So the male teacher was never put in the girls' locker room, so there was no reason.
Never have been.
Yeah,
Oh,
hasn't been all year, so that's misinformation.
that's interesting because some of the people I've talked to said the girls that are in the locker room have said otherwise. So there's apparently a lot of misinformation going on because the students have a different perception of what's going on than what I hear here. And so anyway, that's interesting to know. Thanks for that. I did want to share a little bit of my perspective of how the early start school thing has gone on. So I've only been to 3 of these board meetings in January, February, now in March. And it's been kind of an interesting thing. And I wrote this down because I'm not a terrible public speaker. In my perception, of course, it's just my perception. It appears that there's really only 2 main points for starting school early. The one was that other schools do it, which that's in the there, because The only school that I found out in our vicinity that starts early is Hamilton. And I didn't ever find any other information that's showing the early start produces any better results. It would be nice to see that if the schools that were referenced throughout the country had better results, that'd be kind of cool. Currently, I think it was stated in the last meeting that our school is ranked number 12 in the state, which is pretty good. And so if we do end up going to an earlier start in the academic year, what metric are we going to measure success by? I would like to know that. I would like to say, okay, if we're currently number 12, do we want to shoot for number 2? What metric are we going to measure success of this new proposition by? I have not seen that. I would like to know that. The other option that was the other proponent was that we would have more days to bone up on the course material to do the baseline, to better on the baseline testing. And I'm not really into the scholastic system, so I don't know if this is it, but it kind of seems like if we're starting earlier to study up for the baseline testing, is that a real baseline test? If we're having to study for the baseline, and then correspondingly, if we do come to school earlier, do better on the baseline testing, will our end of the year testing improve correspondingly? Is that something that might happen? I don't know. I have not seen any information to say that one way or the other. In the January board meeting, there were 2 early start options. One was the 2 weeks early, and one was the 1 week early. At that time, it was stated that the decision was made in spite of the other school, the district K through 12, the other school district, and they were immaterial to the decision because it was only the high school. It would appear that perceptions that 2 districts don't serve the same community and coordination is of no value, but I would like to, from a parent's standpoint, that is extraordinarily frustrating. Even the simple days that don't coordinate, days off when they don't coordinate, it's fantastically arduous to manage. And I'm extraordinarily lucky my wife does not have to work. And so we can accommodate. So I imagine the people that have multiple parents working, I bet that's really hard to deal with. And so another thing in there that at that time when they were talking about the 1 and 2 week earlier starts, it was mentioned that public interaction that time was not desirable and didn't come to process. And then after the January meeting, and this was talked about last time we were here. Are you answer Mr. Hanson?
I am.
Okay, I think I read that somewhere that you were the one that answered my questions.
I was.
All right. So maybe if I understood you wrong, please correct me. So the 2 propositions, the 1 and 2 week earlier start was proposed to the teacher union, and both were rejected because they were for the historical schedule.
Morgan, could I
Yeah.
interrupt here for a minute? If you looked at the current calendar that is proposed for now,
I did, and I saw the accelerated start time.
we're just going back 1 day. We're starting 1 day earlier than what we've done in the past. So
Right.
that's what we're going to talk about today. So
Yeah. Okay. Will there be? Is this more germane to the topic later, or should I finish now?
I guess we did.
Well, like I said, I don't know the process by which you follow, and I'm trying not to get in the way. So in the January meeting, they were given those 2 options, and they said we don't like either one of them, and they were told they were wrong, and to choose one of those 2 with the least desire, and they chose the least desirable one, which is a week earlier. And then the board meeting in February, it was open to public comment, and there was quite a few people here. I was from there down in Nepal, and there were several people out here. And we all voiced. I didn't hear one comment that was in favor of moving it up. And so, correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I didn't hear anything that was in favor of it. So the closing remarks pretty much was the response was, "You're wrong. Apparently, we can't make all the changes all at once." So it was couldn't make the change all at once. They would be implemented over the course of the next few years instead. And the other school district would have to be flexible. I think I read that in the paper or the Bill Night or something. I can't remember where I read that. That was in there. And so it really, there wasn't any like, thank you for participating. Those are good comments. Let's reevaluate. It was just, no, we'll just implement it in a slower way. Instead of all at once, 1 week or 2 weeks, we're gonna implement it in a slower way, 1 or 2 days in advance. And so on February 27th, we got the robocall stating that the school year was accelerated in spite of the very nearly unanimous vote against it. And like you were saying, Mr. Love, that the whole thing wasn't done, but it just, as the comment suggested, well, wasn't suggested, it was stated clearly. We'll implement it over multiple years, 1 or 2 days at a time. And so that's the new calendar that you mentioned right now, is that we're, I think, was it 2 days in advance or was it 1 day? 1 day. Okay. And so somehow there was it turned out to be that there was not of the 2 bad decisions, a third one that was even worse came about, which was kind of startling me. So the Thursday and the Friday, I think the freshmen start Thursday and the other kids start Friday. Is that right? And I wonder how effective those 2 days randomly spaced like that are going to be beneficial. I guess we'll see the next year, because as we said in the last meeting, it's going to advance 1 or 2 days every year to mix however long it takes.
Well, number one, that's up to the board and the teachers union, and that's something that'll be decided on an annual basis. As far as I'm concerned, we've moved it up 1 day, and that's fine, and we'll stay there as far as I'm concerned. I don't know.
Okay.
A lot of that'll have to do with
So that's
what
fantastic.
the union wants to do and what they expect.
That's fantastic here, because in that meeting, it was very clearly stated that we'll implement the early start over multiple years.
I never said that.
I didn't say you said that. You did not say that. In fact, what the comments you said, it sounded like you were in favor of most of the community who also did not like the early start.
Right.
So I did find one other school that well, that's so I guess just to wrap up my comments, I'm still not in favor of the early start in August. However, having said that, I wouldn't mind it if I could see any information that was beneficial. I haven't seen any beneficial information about that. I haven't seen accelerated testing scores. I haven't seen better people produced by it. I haven't seen any information that helps me understand that its validity. More so, I would like to encourage. I can't express it high enough to get on board with the other district. Last time I made the comment that it would be fantastic if we got to one district. I still think that's the right way to go. I just can't imagine. It just eludes my understanding that we can't have one district here. And the reason most of us live in Montana is to get out and enjoy the outdoors. That's a great thing. I would be fine with the early start if it does. Like I said, I saw the benefit. And I think the other district would be willing to jump on board if there's any positive benefit related to them as well. Positive benefit, I think, is the thing that is lacking here. I'm even more opposed to the accelerated schedule now that it's kind of gone. It was clearly stated last time that we're going to go incrementally over the next few years, but I still think that's kind of a sneaky way around it. And like a frog in a pot of water, you slowly raise it up and doesn't know that it's been cooked. I hope we don't. I hope we realize that before the action is taking place. Yeah, minimally, before any more incremental change is taken. I would very much like to see some definitive information benefits, improved scholastic achievement, any information that makes kids better, I think would go a long way in justifying this thing, because it hasn't been justified at all. In fact, the information given was just, I thought it was quite lacking. Anyways, and I guess that's all I got to say. Thanks for indulging me, and I'll stick around for the rest of the comment. Sorry if I stepped out of line.
That's fine. Thank you. Anybody else have any comments? John,
Yeah, I can jump in. So with our first Thursday, that's practical orientation. And so really, there's been a lot of time in the auditorium kind of going through rules.
And then our Friday is everything else orientation. So really, by doing that, it's actually kind of a nice break, because then starting the next Monday, you can go into instruction right away. So I know talking to multiple students and other staff, they said, know what? It's not the worst thing. And teachers, we usually start on Tuesday. So now we're going to start on Monday. We're kind of starting. So I guess that's kind of.
And I appreciate what you said, that it's not a step, like it was clearly said last time. It'll be implemented over multiple years, and I hope you're right, and it's not very.
So I think I've been responding. Question whether I would or not, but where my patience a little thin. There's an overwhelming amount of evidence. There's a reason why over 80% of the country is a schedule like this. All right, it's of the most strategic importance. All right, you do this to give your kids more opportunity to prepare for those high stakes exams, which we are held accountable for. I can't put it any clearer or plainly than that. There's a number of other things we can do. The one thing I'd say, go back and check the video. All right, because I do believe I thanked everybody, and I think you're spreading some misinformation, because I said I would like to work together. We're going to work together as a team, as a community, to arrive at a calendar that we feel is best for our students. And so I'd appreciate it if you would do that, because there is a video record of it. I would also say, yes, I did give the thanks for the input. I do think it's important we work toward alignment with District 10. I would mention that in U.S. News and World Report, while our high school is ranked 12th, the middle school is ranked 50th, and the elementary is ranked 45th. And I would think that the calendar might have something to do with that, although that's probably just one piece of the issue.
The calendar.
I would say some other things that we could do. The calendar, because they don't start till after Labor Day, which less than 15% of our state does. So again, I'm a facts and data guy. I go by the research. Okay, I've got over 17 years experience in education, 8 years as a superintendent. I have a PhD from Montana State University. I feel like I'm very well informed and knowledgeable on this topic. I just didn't show up yesterday unprepared. And so over the course of a number of years, yes, I'd like to work with you, work with the community, but well, the request is an open mind. Because again, I'm putting out some hard research and some hard data there. And it offends me a little bit that you just brush it aside like it's nothing. Because that's not fair. I would say that baseline testing, yes, we want to get that baseline testing done so we can begin strategically informing our instructional decision making so we can meet those kids' deficiencies. There's a number of things that we can do besides just the calendar. We're going to do a tier 2 intervention program maybe starting next year. We're working with our kids that are somewhere in between the gaps of advanced and proficient, and that they need a little extra help so they can get up to proficiency level. I would like to look at bringing back summer school. We talked to Mark last time about summer melt. Well, this calendar doesn't, we're just shifting days around, right? That's because there's more to it than that. If we had a summer school program, we could do not only do credit recovery, we might be able to look at targeting some of those learning gaps. So the calendar is just the first piece, because I can't make any decisions or promote any decisions or put forth any decisions for consideration until that is settled. That's where all the strategy starts and where we begin.
That's fantastic. And I guess I missed those in your article where you defended it. That's all. If I can see that numbers, you say you're a data and facts person. I'm an engineer, I like data and facts as well. It's fantastic. Like I said in my speech, if it shows to be beneficial, I said I do it.
I think you'll find that it will, but I wouldn't want you to take my word for it. My goal is to prove it over time. I'm not going to try to sell something that I can't prove.
Fantastic. So just that's you're saying exactly. You're reiterating what I said. What metric are we going to measure success by?
Exactly. So again, we're held accountable for our ACT scores. We're going to measure by that. We're also held accountable, or we're measured by our number, our scores on our advanced placement test, our number of students that are getting into the university system on first attempt, our number of kids that are going directly from high school into a career, or to a trade or to industry. We're going to look at all those factors. And I feel like if we're more successful at getting those kids into good programs, whether it's college or career, that shows that something's working. Because we're losing, we've lost some kids to homeschool, and I'm supposed to meet with a couple of the homeschool coordinators here in the coming weeks to talk to them about what we can do. As this is a multifaceted problem. It's not, and I say problem, there's just more we can do. It's not just the calendar. It's one piece. It's the first piece, but there are multiple other things we can do, I think, to help bring back some of our homeschool kids, to work with them at the very least, see what we can offer them. And because they already participate in a lot of our programs, a lot of our CTE programs, our sports programs, and clubs. And so I would like to see us work on that. And I think there are a lot of answers in the community, maybe that we haven't even considered yet. And I'd like to explore those through some meetings and discussions with community members.
Yeah, it sounds like, not to speak in hyperbole, but it sounds like we're in vehement agreement. I just want to see those metrics shown. That's fantastic. In the documentation that I saw, it didn't justify very well. And if you say it's there, then fantastic. I'd like to see it. And then the metrics by which you're going to measure it, fantastic. I'm all.
Thank you. Anyone else have any comments? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Sindel. That was one of the superintendent's report, John.
All right, assistant principal candidate interviews. So we had interviews back on Tuesday, February 19th. We had 3 finalists that were selected from 12 applications. They were Doug Powell, Gerald Chenard, and Greg Lemlin. After all the interviews, we deliberated, and the committee selected Greg Lemlin, preferred candidate. He will be recommended tonight for hire to the full board. Any questions on our interview process or candidates?
I guess I'd like to say that all 3 of the candidates interviewed very well and did a nice job. And Greg Lemlin has taught in the Dillon District 10 district for 12 years, I believe, and is currently a principal in Anaconda. And he just felt like the candidate that we wanted to recommend. So. And he's local. His kids have gone through the school system here, and we know it, so we were pleased.
They all did an outstanding job. We were very fortunate to have
Yes, we did.
so many good candidates to choose from. I'll skip the ACE building repair update because we've kind of covered that. I'll move on to the 2026-2027 preliminary budget data information. That's pretty key. There's also a handout in your packet. Looks like this. FY27, that kind of goes over it. And so you'll notice that I highlighted on page, I think it's the second page of that document, what our highest budget without a vote is, our highest budget with a vote, and the amount that separates the two. And so the highest budget without a vote next year is $3,690,643.97, or $3,740,419.25 with a vote. That's a difference of roughly $50,000. And while that may be a large sum, I don't think that it's significant enough to merit consideration of an operational levy. So I think that we should hold off on something like that. Just to compare, our highest estimated budget without a vote this year is $3,601,533.86. That's a positive improvement over last year of $89,110. And while part of that can be attributed, Gary, to the STARS fund, one small portion of the STARS Act, a lot of it is it's an increase in direct state aid.
So that's a total of both STARS and the direct aid.
Yeah,
That's the
it's
increase.
more in direct aid. I think it's like 40-something thousand in direct aid,
Okay.
about 10 or so in STARS, and then there's been increases across the board in some other line items. Questions on?
Because last year we had like 87 STARS, didn't we? And then 80-some from state aid, I think. Something like that. But that last year, the STARS deal, that was the first time it came up, and I think we received a larger amount last year. So.
You can see our enrollments kind of held steady. We were at 348 for our A and B total calculation this year. That also matches the 3-year average.
How do you as board members, excuse me, how do you as board members feel about running a levy for basically for the $50,000. Last time we tried to run one, and the last time we ran our tech levy, they both failed.
It's a good idea.
The economy like it is now, I don't feel it is either. So.
I think you want to hold off on that until it maybe gets north of 100.
Yep.
Yeah.
If it starts getting into the six-figure territory, that's when you have that
Yep.
discussion. And it starts to be a pretty big shortfall.
So you're all okay with that? Okay. As are you, Josh?
Yes.
Okay.
Any questions? Okay, next I've got the 2026-2027 revised academic calendar proposal. And so I think I've shared that with you. It's in your packet. We're starting one day earlier. The difference in hour time, because somebody asked me about the hours. Exactly who that was. But this current year, we have 1,106 hours of instructional time. This calendar is 1,105 hours. So we're a difference of 1 hour from in total instructional time from the current calendar to the calendar that's proposed tonight. So
And John, as you explained to Mr. Sandell, the union and the teachers are fine with this calendar.
Yes, it passed overwhelming majority when I did the poll. Yes, yeah, overwhelming.
any questions? Okay, we'll move on then. Spring reporting and student registration. All spring reporting is complete. I saved a few little things from OPI. I got to work out a few little things with them in the next week or so. We recently had our 8th grade registration night. The leadership team and I have been working together to prepare for the switch from Power School to Infinite Campus, which is our student information system. We've had weekly meetings every week for the past several weeks. And so soon we'll begin the online registration process. We're looking forward to getting that underway. Winter teacher evaluations are pretty much wrapped up. And it's been a pleasure evaluating the 12 staff members I've got to evaluate this year. Next year, I'll do the next 12. And then I'll officially observe every teacher on staff twice. So what I can say, the 12 I've observed is we got a great staff. It's probably the biggest reason our school was ranked 12th. That and the fact that there's been some past leadership that put some practices in place, like our advanced placement courses, partnering with Western for dual enrollment, Highlands College as well from Montana Tech. I think is a big part of the reason for our success. Of course, we have great kids, and they help me have great kids too. And then you get my March schedule there. Okay. Any questions on the super report?
How many 8th grade registrants did we have, or do we think we'll have?
It's 80 something. I can't remember exactly, but it's in the 80s. Maybe 82, 83, low 80s. We've got 5 or 6 in the rural schools coming.
We might be close to 90 if we're lucky, which would throw us in the 350 range, which would sure be great. Anybody else have any questions for Josh's report? Okay, if not, we'll go on to the assistant principal's report, Rob.
Right. Well, first of all, before I get to this. Aki wanted me to ask you guys, if anybody's going to the state tournament, let him know via text or email.
Okay, thank you.
For those of you that sure everybody knows that boys and girls basketball teams were Class A Western Division champions.
2 years in a row.
Awesome. That is awesome.
Pretty cool.
Boys played 5 and the girls played 8 at Thursday.
Yes.
Boys have
Mel City.
Wells City and the girls have Laurel. They both have pretty good brackets, really.
Yeah, we're set up pretty well.
Yep.
Everybody's playing well and everybody's as healthy as can be. And
Yeah, I think only once in the whole history, or the recent history of our high school, the last 50 years anyway, there was only one time when the boys and girls both won the divisional championship in the same year. And we did it last year and did it this year, which is speaks a lot to our coaches and our players. Pretty neat.
I'll make this brief. Attendance is actually down a little bit from previous months, but we did talk about how illness has been kind of, I guess, elementary and high school alike. But it is, again, kind of look, last board meeting was about 84%. Now we're, back up to 91. It just doesn't look like that for the whole entire month at 88%. Normally they're running around 92%. But we're climbing, so I'm confident that we will be back. And like a broken record, very, very similar. Tardies followed by cell phones are kind of the top methods. And hopefully spring doesn't hit too hard, so that sometimes behaviors increase a little bit. Haven't too bad thus far. So keep you posted.
Thank you. Any questions for Rob on his report? This would be the activities director's report, which they're having the winter meeting tonight, correct?
Correct.
Or for spring meeting.
Spring company is going on right now.
When does spring practices start? Really?
So then we have Monday, we'll have a week of practice, we'll have our prom. And then the second week can start competition. So our kids, especially if they're athletes at winter athletes and then spring athletes, don't get much of a break. Which is a good thing. I mean, they're still participating.
Now that the spring activities are about to start, we'll for sure get some winter weather. I hope. Yeah. Okay, any questions for Rob about Brock's report? If not, we'll go on to the consent agenda items.
Right. Item 9.1, board consideration and possible approval, of the recommendation to hire Greg Lemley as BCHS assistant principal in the 26-27 school year.
I so moved to Margaret Lemons, BCHS assistant principal for the 26-27 school year.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to hire Greg Lemlin as the principal for the upcoming school year. Is there any questions or comments? Those in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Passes unanimously.
9.2, board consideration and possible approval of the recommendation to hire Suzanne Valek as the district clerk for the 26-27 school year.
Make that motion.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that hire Suzanne Bollick as the district clerk for the upcoming school year. I just would like to comment as chairman and being on the board for a lot of years. I'm just so impressed with the job she's done and how quickly she's caught on, and she's just done super. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Passes unanimously.
Item 9.3, board consideration and possible approval of tenured teacher employment recommendations for the 26-27 school year. See a list right here. Those are the our list of our tenured teachers. Also, Mr. Milnacki as our AD. Only person left off, Ms. Rouse. So, because JC was on here from the year before and nobody caught it. So it should be on our April agenda. We don't miss her. We definitely want her back as well, and she's willing to come back. We're very gracious and grateful for that.
I so moved to hire the BCHS tenured teachers for the 26-27 school year.
Been moved and seconded to hire the slate of tenured teachers presented to us for the upcoming school year. Is there any discussion or question? Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? This is unanimously. John and Ms. Gentry, thank you for the wonderful job. You and your staff, we were very fortunate.
So what we'll do with that is we're gonna get contracts out immediately. That's another new strategy. Instead of waiting until May, I do like to get teachers under contract as quickly as possible. And so while those numbers may change, we do issue new contracts when those, if negotiations do result in new figures, then we issue new contracts at that time. This allows us to begin that 20-day clock. So 20 business days to sign their contract offer. Otherwise, we'll take as an indication of offer refusal, which allows us to open positions quicker if that were to happen. That's kind of the strategy behind getting this done right away. I did get out intent to return requests, and I've received 20 out of 24 responses back. So I'm pretty confident that the vast majority, if not all of our teachers will come back, return next year. Okay, moving on to item 9.4, board consideration and possible approval of non-tenured teacher employment recommendations for the 26-27 school year. You can see those in 9.4, where it's broken out. Each of those teachers are non-tenured teachers. I will mention that Bobby Conan, our business teacher, is moving into her 4th contract, so she will be tenured.
And if I may, so I observed and evaluated these guys. And like you said, we have solid teachers and the ones that are coming up are just as strong. They have great rapport with kids and they care about what they're teaching. They're, passionate about their content materials, their content area. Just a good group of teachers.
And this is the list where Chrissy was left off by accident, and
Yes.
you'll put her on
Yeah.
next meeting. Okay.
We've evaluated her, but she's good stuff. And does a great job and spring kids. It's a lot of information out there.
Yes,
She's gone.
you'll let her know that she just was an oversight, and that's what she does.
I move to approve the non-tenured in items 9.41 through 9.46.
Been moved and seconded to hire the slate of non-tenured teachers. Is there any discussion or questions? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? This is unanimous. Okay, next is action items, Josh.
Okay, item 10.1. Board consideration and possible approval of the recommended solution for the ACIT building repair. When the committee met, they chose that's the second option. The option that was for 700,000 and change. I can get that exact.
700, what, 47? Dan, is that what it was? Something like that?
747, 11 and 97 cents. Recommendation.
How do you guys feel about that as opposed to going with metal covering?
They're both requiring. This one alleviates a large degree the issue of the potential mold and moisture wicking,
Yes.
which would be another unforeseen thing.
Well, and Dan and the architect and Langlis are all feel fairly strongly that this would be a good material to put on the outside. And one nice thing about it, if there is a damage or whatnot to it, it can be fixed relatively easily, can it, Dan, as opposed to trying to use the metal.
Yep. And just one thing real quick to clarify on the pricing, that's a kind of a rough order of magnitude. That's kind of the high end, because once this is designed, it'll actually get developed and bid out. And so the next thing, you're really approving the process, not necessarily the price. We will come back to you with a guaranteed maximum price once everything's designed and it's actually bid. So we still have to meet the requirements by the state for the contractor to bid it. But that's kind of our worst case scenario. So our hope is bid day, we see some additional budget savings there. That's just kind of that worst case. And that's just FYI. That's not only the recommendation from a budget, but solution, I think, is going to be detailing is going to be easier, and the overall performance we feel is going to be a better delivery for the district.
Anybody have any questions for Dan? Now's the time to ask him if you do. Familiar with this product anyplace, Phil? You say it's on quite a few commercial buildings around the state, Dan?
Yeah, yeah, lots of industrial places where there's high levels of water. So a lot of commercial places that service vehicles and deal with water and chemicals. It stands up to all of that stuff, and that's why I think it's it's a good solution to kind of seal up that block and all those larger cracks that have appeared over time. It'll seal all that stuff up and really limit any potential of future infiltration of air or water.
And you think it can move a little bit with heat and cold?
Yeah.
Crack?
Yep. And our engineers have all agreed that any of the, now that we're 5 years into it, all of the settling that potentially could be there is happened. So now the building really is kind of set where it is. This price includes both prices. When we toured, Gary was with us when we toured the building. They have control joints in the CMU where they create a spot where it should allow it to flex. That caulking was probably not the correct product. We can see a lot of areas that it was pulling off of the block. And this solution, we're going to strip all that out and replace everything. So really the building's going to be much tighter than it ever has been with either of these solutions, but especially where we've got new joint seals, and then we're actually going to fill all of those cracks that have presented themselves. Will be all sealed and kind of non-existent anymore.
And then Dan, did you say that this product can be color tinted?
Yes, it can be tinted, so we'll probably tint it and then still apply a final finish on it, because a paint product's going to have a better appearance to it than this tinted product, but it'll be tinted behind it. So really anything that shows up won't be overly obvious. Then we can put on a maintenance plan for repainting or retouching up.
And there again, like we talked in our meeting, the backside where all the wood chip thing is and the greenhouse and everything, maybe we wouldn't have to paint that if the
color's right.
If the color was close to being correct, yeah.
Correct. Yeah, because on the back, if you recall, all of that is the flat or smooth face CMU. So it's going to accept the material a lot more consistently. And so that could be an option to leave it and not worry as much about the third coat of a finished product on it. And it would still perform the same as everywhere else.
Anybody have any other questions for Dan? So I guess after our meeting with the committee and with Dan and Josh, my recommendation would also be to go with the coating that we're talking about rather than the metal covering. If all of you are okay, we could accept a motion and let Dan get going in that direction if you wanted to.
That's option 2, right?
Yes.
I move to approve option 2. Let's give me a second.
Yep.
So
Is ASIP
they said project.
Second.
been moved and seconded to approve option 2 of Dan's presentation for roughly $747,000. Is there any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Passes unanimously. Welcome, Mrs. Lovis.
You're just, all right. So I just thought-
You're fine. We might even ask you a question before you
Put you on the spot.
come in. Okay. What's next, Josh? Your calendar?
Let's see. Yep. Item 10.2, board consideration, possible approval of proposed 26-27 BCHS academic calendar.
So move to approve the proposed 26-27 BCHS. Thank you.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the proposed calendar for the upcoming school year. Is there any question or discussion? John, any further comments from you or Ms. Gentry?
No further comments.
Okay. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed? I'd like to thank you for all the input you guys did and for Josh, all the work you did on it. Rob and everyone else, thank you.
10.4, board consideration, excuse me, 10.3. 10.3, board consideration and possible approval of the school audit for year ending June 30th, 2025. And we sent that separately because it's 89 pages, something like that. There were no substantial findings, so we're very happy about that. Clean audit. Suzanne said she'd be happy to answer any of your questions.
Yes.
The school audit for the year ending in June 30th, 2025.
Second.
Been seconded to approve the school audit for the school year ending June 30th, 2025. Is there any discussion or question? There again, thank you, Suzanne, for doing such a good job. I don't think not every school gets a clean audit, I don't think.
No, we had some that have not. It's a real relief. Clean audit.
Thank you, Suzanne. Those in favor, say aye. Those opposed? Passes unanimously.
Now we'll move on to board consideration of a declaration to announce trustee candidates as officially elected by acclamation. That'd be Cole, Roxanne, and Phil.
So nobody filed, that's great. I think you'll have to make the motion since.
So move to approve the declaration to announce trustee candidates as officially elected by acclamation. Cole Cottom, Roxanne Inglet, Bill Will.
Is moved and seconded. To announce the candidates elected by acclamation of Cole Cottom, Roxanne Inglet, and Phil Willett. Is there any question or discussion? Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, passes unanimously.
10.5, this will be the last page in your packet. It's board consideration possible approval of a resolution of intent to impose an increase in levies. This is not to be mistaken with the operation levy. This is just, we have to disclose this to the public annually. And this was, I think, in 2 legislative sessions ago. And so we have to show our over-base levy, transportation, bus depreciation, tuition, adult ed, technology, flexibility, debt service, building reserve, which is permissive, and building reserve voted. And so as you can see, there's very little change in the meals, the number of meals projected. So currently, now this can't change, but currently we're projecting 75.79 meals, and that's compared to 75.39 meals this year. So we're just up a little. And you can see where those were mostly in adult ed, to be honest. We brought back our adult ed art and ceramics. And so we're having to levy a little more there so we can keep providing courses like that so long as there's interest.
As there be an up or down, I believe there's, but almost 20, I think, in the painting, and then there's 12 or 13 in the Please don't quote me on this one.
Reserve permissive levy. Because it's for every $1 we levy locally, it's $4 the state kicks back. Now that's it's capped. You can only go up so much before you reach a point of diminishing returns. And so we're expecting about $80,000 to generate that next year for our building reserve fund, which can go to projects, other projects that need, like concessions, like catwalk, like boilers that need to be replaced. So that's why that fund is so important moving forward.
Move the resolution of intent to impose an increase in levies.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve a resolution of intent to impose an increase in levies. Is there any discussion? Those in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Passes unanimously. Josh, I have this in here about the Montana Job Corps. Do we have to approve that in place?
I think it's already been approved. They called me and said they wanted it updated.
Okay,
The one that has like 20 years old, maybe. It's been updated in the new sign.
this is an interlocal cooperative agreement with the Montana Job Corps and Montana School Districts, which allows us to send students to the job corps correctly.
Right, over in Anaconda.
Yep. And one hand with the rest of it.
If they get, if they fulfill all the requirements, they can potentially still graduate from the BCHS. If they choose that route.
Is there any other business to come before the board? Emma, what's new with the students? Anything? Yeah, that's pretty neat. That's neat. Isn't it? Congratulations. So you guys are.
Maybe before they experience up there in the school.
That's right. I wasn't able to make it this year. I heard good things about it.
It was
Great.
excellent. Yes, a lot of people who watched and I mean,
Great.
very well attended. Yes.
Casey, any questions, thoughts? Okay, Mr. Hanson, Ms. Gentry? Anything?
Yes,
Good for you. Okay, if there's nothing else, I would entertain a motion to adjourn until Monday, April 13th. Adjourn. Thank you.